Every month, 30 million women open this app and tell it their deepest secrets. But someone else was listening.
Are you willing to change your business model in the interest of protecting individual privacy?
Congresswoman, have made and are continuing to make changes to reduce the amount of data.
Are you willing to change your business model in the interest of protecting individual privacy?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure what that means.
Mark Zuckerberg just got caught stealing the most intimate data imaginable. A California jury just ruled Meta violated privacy law by secretly harvesting millions of women's menstrual cycles, fertility struggles, and sexual activity. This isn't just a privacy violation. It's the biggest betrayal of trust in tech history. And the victims? Women who trusted an app with data so personal. Their own doctors never saw it. Here's how Meta turned period tracking into a $7 billion scam. Let's rewind to 2015. A small team of developers in Belarus launched an app called Flow. Not flashy, not trying to disrupt anything dramatic. Just a simple period tracker that promised something radical in the tech world. Actually caring about women's health. Clean interface, thoughtful design, and a marketing message that felt like a breath of fresh air. Your data stays private. Your health stays yours. The app exploded. Within a few years, over 100 million women worldwide were logging their most personal health details into Flow. Not just periods. We're talking fertility windows, pregnancy attempts, miscarriages, contraception changes, sexual activity, mood swings tied to hormonal cycles. The kind of information that, in the wrong hands, could predict life changes before women even realized themselves. But of course, Flow wasn't free because they were philanthropists. The female health tech space, or femtech, had become a gold rush. Investors were throwing hundreds of millions at companies that could crack the code on women's biological data. Because if you know when someone's ovulating, you can predict when they'll buy pregnancy tests. If you know their cycle is irregular, you can target fertility clinic ads. If you know they're trying to conceive, you can flood them with baby product promotions worth thousands per customer. Flow's promise of privacy was their entire business model. Women flocked to it precisely because big tech had burned them so many times before. Finally, an app that understood that health data isn't just sensitive, it's sacred. At least that's what 100 million users thought they were getting. But behind Flow's privacy-first branding, something far more sinister was happening. The company had quietly integrated Meta's software development kit, essentially a surveillance backdoor that most users had never heard of. Every time someone opened Flow, this hidden code was working overtime, packaging up the most intimate data and shipping it straight to Meta's servers in real time. Here's how the scheme worked. When you logged trying to conceive into Flow, that data didn't stay on your phone or even just in Flow's database. Within seconds, Meta's algorithms knew you were fertility planning. When you marked a late period, Meta's system instantly flagged you as potentially pregnant, often before you'd even taken a test. Log irregular cycles? Meta would categorize you as someone likely to spend big on fertility treatments. The sophistication was just breathtaking and creepy in equal measure. Meta wasn't just collecting random health data. Oh no, they were building psychological profiles of women's reproductive lives. They knew who was struggling with fertility, who was having pregnancy scares, who was planning families, who was dealing with hormonal issues. Then they'd weaponize this information for advertising targeting that was so precise, it bordered on mind reading. Just think about the economic value here. Generic online ads might be worth pennies per click, but ads targeted at someone actively trying to get pregnant, that's worth dollars per click, sometimes tens of dollars. Meta had figured out how to turn the most private moments of women's lives into premium advertising inventory. And they were doing it at a scale that would make surveillance states jealous. 100 million women, logging data multiple times per month for years. The users thought they were tracking their health. Meta knew they were tracking future customers for everything from pregnancy vitamins to fertility clinics to baby gear. It was behavioral economics at its most predatory. Then in 2019, everything started unraveling. The Wall Street Journal published an article saying Flow gave users sensitive personal information to Facebook and other companies without their knowledge. Testing commissioned by the newspaper showed Flow told Facebook when an app user was on their period or trying to get pregnant. This was devastating. Here was an app that had built its entire reputation on protecting women's privacy, and they were actually running one of the most invasive data sharing operations in tech history. The journal's reporting showed that Flow users who had logged sensitive information, like pregnancy attempts, were suddenly seeing targeted ads for fertility treatments and baby products across Facebook and Instagram. But wait, it gets really infuriating. The Federal Trade Commission launched an investigation, and what they found was a regulatory nightmare. HIPAA, the law that's supposed to protect your medical privacy, doesn't cover most health apps. So while your doctor can't share your period data without consent, the app on your phone absolutely can. It's a legal loophole big enough to drive Meta's entire advertising business through. Our clients entrusted their most sensitive information to a health app, only to have it exploited by one of the world's most powerful tech companies. Canty, the plaintiff's lawyer said. Women who had trusted Flow with their most private health information realized they'd been monetized without their knowledge. Support groups filled with stories of women getting pregnancy ads right after logging miscarriages, or fertility clinic promotions after marking irregular periods. The psychological impact was bad. It felt like being stalked by an algorithm that knew your body better than you did. This wasn't just a data breach. It was a betrayal of trust, so fundamental that it redefined what informed consent meant in the digital age. Meta's response was peak Silicon Valley arrogance. No apology, no admission of wrongdoing, just their standard corporate playbook. Deny everything, shift blame to their partners, and hide behind technical jargon that most people couldn't understand. They claimed they never specifically asked for menstrual data, as if that somehow made secretly collecting it more ethical. But anyone paying attention recognized this pattern. This was the same company that had been caught tracking users even when they opted out. The same platform that had harvested data from millions through the Cambridge Analytica scandal. The same corporation that collected location data even when users explicitly disabled it. Meta's business model wasn't social networking. It was surveillance capitalism with a friendly interface. The economic reality that Meta was banking on is that tech companies have discovered that it's often cheaper to pay massive fines than to change their behavior. They run the numbers. Potential regulatory penalty versus advertising revenue from invasive data collection, and consistently choose to take the fine. It's not a bug in their system. It's a calculated feature. Meta made billions from targeting ads using this intimate health data. Even if they got hit with a $100 million fine, they'd still come out ahead. It's the cost of doing business in an industry where human privacy is just another overhead expense to optimize around. But this time, something was different. The Flow case wasn't just about regulatory penalties or FTC settlements. It was headed to a jury trial, where 12 regular people would decide whether Meta's surveillance crossed the line from ethical business practice into criminal eavesdropping. On August 5, 2025, a California federal jury delivered a verdict against Meta, saying they had violated California's Invasion of Privacy Act by eavesdropping on women's health data. Not just collecting it, not just using it for ads. Illegally eavesdropping, the same crime you'd be charged with for secretly recording someone's phone calls. Under California law, each violated user could be awarded up to $5,000 in penalties. With millions of Flow users in California alone, Meta is looking at exposure that could reach into the tens of billions, potentially the largest privacy-related penalty in tech history. But the money isn't even the most significant part. This jury didn't just find Meta liable for privacy violation, they ruled that secretly harvesting period data constitutes eavesdropping under criminal wiretapping laws. That's a legal precedent that could fundamentally change how tech companies collect and monetize personal data. The jury got to decide how seriously big tech takes privacy. And their answer was unanimous. Not seriously enough. For the first time, a major tech platform faced real consequences that could actually threaten their business model, not just their quarterly earnings. Meta immediately announced that they would appeal, because of course they did. But the damage was already done. The precedent is set, and privacy advocates are calling it a watershed moment for digital rights. This was a jury of regular people saying that tech companies don't have unlimited license to harvest our most private data. If you noticed, the ripple effects are already spreading. Other health apps are rushing to settle similar lawsuits before they face their own jury trials. Flow itself settled their portion of the case rather than risk a similar verdict. When you're in the business of monetizing health data, suddenly the legal risk isn't theoretical anymore. It's an existential threat to your entire business model. Consumer advocacy groups are pushing for federal legislation that would extend real privacy protections for health apps. The European Union is watching closely, considering whether this verdict supports even stricter enforcement of their data protection laws. The economics of surveillance capitalism just got a lot more expensive. When collecting data without consent can result in billions in damage, suddenly respecting user privacy becomes a competitive advantage instead of a costly burden. It turns out that when regular people get to decide what's acceptable, they draw the line much closer to actual human dignity than corporate boardrooms do. But the terrifying reality is that Flow wasn't the only one. The Wall Street Journal's investigation reported that at least 11 popular smartphone apps, with tens of millions of downloads among them, have been sharing sensitive data with Facebook, even if the user has no connection to Facebook. The entire femtech industry was built on a lie, promising privacy while delivering surveillance. And in post-Roe America, this data has become weaponized in ways that the original app developers probably never imagined. Prosecutors in states with abortion bans are already using digital data to build cases against women seeking reproductive care. Insurance companies are buying period tracking data to assess pregnancy risk. Employers are using fertility app data to make hiring decisions about women of childbearing age. The Flow Meta case is just the tip of an iceberg that's still mostly hidden underwater. Your fitness tracker knows when you're sexually active. Your search history reveals your pregnancy scares. Your location data shows visits to reproductive health clinics. All of this information is being bought, sold, and traded in data markets that most people don't even know exist. We're living through the emergence of a reproductive surveillance state, where private companies know more about women's bodies than women know themselves. And they're selling that knowledge to anyone who will pay for it. Advertisers, insurers, employers, and increasingly, law enforcement. So here we are. A California jury just told one of the world's most powerful companies that women's period data isn't just another commodity to be harvested and sold. They said that when you log your most intimate health information into an app, you have a right to expect that information stays private. Revolutionary concept, apparently. But this victory raises more questions than it answers. If Meta was secretly eavesdropping on 100 million women's health data, what else are they listening to? If period tracking apps can't be trusted with menstrual data, what about mental health apps with depression symptoms, fertility apps with pregnancy attempts, sleep trackers with bedroom activity? The truth should terrify everyone that there's no such thing as private data anymore. Every app you trust, every service you use, every digital tool you rely on could be secretly feeding your most personal information to companies that see you not as a human being, but as a bundle of profitable data points waiting to be monetized. Meta spent years building detailed psychological profiles of millions of women based on their reproductive health. They knew who was trying to get pregnant before partners did. They could predict fertility struggles before doctors could. They turned the most private aspects of women's lives into a multi-billion-dollar advertising engine. And if it wasn't for brave users willing to take on the world's most powerful companies, Meta would still be doing it right now, probably expanding into even more intimate forms of health surveillance. But if they were doing this with period trackers, what are they doing with everything else? In a world where every click is tracked, every tap is monetized, and every private moment is potentially profitable, who's really listening to your life? The answer might be more disturbing than you ever imagined.